right, so welcome to Game Plan Sunday. Today is September 12th, and we're back with another great session this week. Got the gang in here with me, but we're just basically coming off of yesterday, which was September 11th, which everybody's reminded of the terrorist attacks in this country. So a lot of that is in the headlines now, but if you guys never made it to New York, make sure you go check that out. Check out the memorial they have out there. It is breathtaking when you go over there. Kind of put you into that zone of what was happening. Me and my family, we used to go there. So, dear to our hearts, of course. But other than, that situation that happened with September 11, the government basically started taking a lot of freedoms from the citizens with the Patriot Act, the American Patriot Act. And they like to give these names that sound so, great. And in reality, it's really just to usurp, freedoms from the citizens. But that was a great act of terror on, U.S. citizens from the government itself. And we're starting to see that with this new regime that's in now under the Biden administration with these laws that were passed this past week, which we'll get into that with these mandatory, coercion acts of violence. But we also saw some weakness in the markets this past week. And, I talked about it the weeks prior. Hey, the markets is topping. The markets are super hot. It's going to be time for a nice pullback. And I think we're starting to see some of that activity, here in the markets anyway. So just taking a look at what the print was last week. We had oil that was up 0.88%. We had the dollar that was up 0.57%. And then we had the NASDAQ that was down negative 1.61%. The S&P 500, negative 1.69%. The Dow Jones, negative 2.15%. Gold was down negative 2.28%. The Russell, negative 2.81%. And Bitcoin, okay, the donkey of the day, as they say, negative 10.13%. So really everything got smacked up. Everything got smacked up last week. And again, it's about that time, okay? As far as the sectors go, you guys can see everything was in the red, all right? Consumer discretionary, the financials, consumer staples, communications, utilities, materials, energy, technology, industrials, healthcare, and real estate, which is the donkey of the day there. Now, interesting thing is that real estate had a major spike the week before, and then it just retraced all of that. So it's kind of like, just broke even basically. But that's how we were looking last week. So it was a really choppy day. It was real light in the chat room. And every time the markets is down, it's always light in the chat rooms because ain't nobody making no money like that. You know what I'm saying? Unless you were shorting. Okay. So everybody kind of get light. But every day it's always something, okay, that we can be trading and, managing and hedging and things like that. So it was that kind of week. According to some of the headlines that we got here, let's see. It says stocks fell and volatility rose as summer ends, inflamed by a bad jobs report and the Delta variant surge and a slowing economy. Even jobless claims falling again couldn't cheer investors. So basically what it's saying is that we had jobless claims that came down, but it wasn't enough to uplift the markets because the economy is slowing and the Delta variant surge is going higher. The jobs report was really bad, really, really bad miss on those job reports. And so things are just chaos right now. When I take a look at what's happening in the state of the economy, it is pure chaos. There's no other way to describe what's happening. I have some new people say, hey, I've never traded in this kind of environment. Nobody has, okay? This is insanity what we're looking at. And the reason why it's insanity is because of the government's intervention into the market, distorting everything. And I tell you guys all the time about the ant. If you mark their path, you distort their whole situation, it turns into chaos. But eventually they will figure it out and then, they get back into some type of normalcy eventually. But there's no telling how long it's going to take to get to that point. Okay. And so sometimes it takes for a collapse in order for that to happen. And so a lot of people don't understand in terms of what recessions are. You have to think about recessions as cleansings. Okay. The problem with the government is that they don't see them as cleansings. Okay. They want to try to keep the bubbles going. That's why they don't want prices to go down, right? So in recessions, you normally get a deflation effect where prices go down. Malinvestments gets, properly reallocated because those businesses will go out of business. The resources that they had that were taken up in the system would get freed up and go to those entrepreneurs that are more efficient with the resources and the capital, delivering value to the people. The people choose the winners because that's where you're spending your money at. But that's the way it works. And so when you have that recession, prices go down, everything gets corrected. It's kind of like a new birth. But they constantly don't want that to happen. They want to kind of keep it going and going and going. So they never fix the problem. The problem just gets bigger, bigger, bigger. And so when the day of reckoning comes, it's going to be tumultuous. So anyway, we're seeing that starting to add up now. OK, there's no recovery. And again, numbers don't make anything true. These statisticians, they lie with numbers all the time, whether they mean to lie or they don't mean to lie. It's hard for them to derive, causality for certain things. They always miscalculate risk. That's the whole thing about risk. So everybody's fighting for get all this information in terms of dealing with human actions, and nobody knows how humans are going to act, how we're going to respond to these things. OK, so then they use the government to try to steer everybody's behavior in a certain way. For instance, the vaccine mandates, right? They want to try to make you get these things, and you can calculate the output of that if everyone was to go on board with that. However, you still don't know how humans are going to behave. Are people going to rise up and fight back, or they're just going to lay down and take it? We don't know. All right. That's the risk. The risk is that nobody knows all things. And so we got to take that information and do the best that we can. Right. So that's what we have with that. We also have, let's see, after the Labor Day situation, again, because we had the Labor Day holiday, that marked the end of the whole unemployment benefit situation. All right. So we got here some 7.5 million Americans lost their COVID-related $300 a week in extra unemployment benefits as U.S. cases of the Rona hit 40 million and deaths passed 655,000. President Biden took aim at 80 million unvaccinated Americans by mandating shots for federal employees, contractors, healthcare workers, and teachers, and ordering companies with more than 100 employees to either vaccinate or test workers weekly. This is asinine. You have to understand. Listen, what is the difference between an employer that has 100 employees or 50 employees, right? If you're saying it is the way it's supposed to be, then why not just, mandate everybody? OK, for some odd reason, I guess the Rona don't want to catch people that's working for companies with under 100 employees. All right. This is the end of logic and reason as we know it. Nobody's having any kind of logical reason, no kind of debate. There's nothing. People are just, just ridiculous. And I listened to the speech. I'm sure some of you guys did, too. It was terrific. It was terrible. OK, it was a terrible speech because his tone, for one, was all tore up. His tone was very aggressive. He sent threats to governors. OK, he told them that those governors is in the way. He's going to use his executive powers to remove them. This is hostility from the president of the so-called free world. OK, again, there's nothing new in history. You guys got to go back in history. Take a look at all those other socialist regimes. Look at Nazi Germany. You've seen the same thing, fascism. That's all this is about. So they're trying to force, because they can't just go, they're not going to go to people's houses and hold you down and shoot the needle in your arms. They're going to try to find a way to coerce you to do it. So they're using the corporations to facilitate the will of the government, right? This is fascism. So it's forcing these employers to make sure everybody gets the vaccinations or whatever, because, this war on the Rona is the whole objective. And they blame everything on the Rona. So they try to make the Rona this enemy of everybody, so that everybody can unite against this thing and get this, Vaxx juice in the arm or whatever. But the big problem here is that it's about liberty. It's not so much about safety. You got to understand, less than 1% of people that get it, dies. OK, and then when they take a look at the death rates, they say all these unvaccinated people, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to pit the unvaccinated people against vaccinated people, but they don't show you the demographics of that data. OK, they just say all these unvaccinated people are dying. Well, we need more information. It's not enough information. What is the age groups of these people that are unvaccinated that are dying? 9 times out of 10, they're over 70 years. Because when you look at the death rates, the death data from the CDC's website, which we could pull up, you'll see that those deaths are highly concentrated in people that's over 70 years. And people under, you barely even see it. It's barely even a print. So the whole agenda is to scare people into doing what they want you to do. But you have to understand, this is an endemic. Been telling you what an endemic is. And now they're saying it. An endemic means that we're going to have to live with it forever. So it's one of those situations where we are overreacting because you don't go crazy about the common cold, the pneumonia, the flu. People die every year from those things. All right. It's one of those things where once you get into the science of understanding the human body and how immune systems work, then you won't be afraid anymore. But most people don't understand how these things work. I encourage people to take the time to study. But it's a human rights violation is what the big issue is. Human rights violations. I told you guys last time about the Nuremberg trials. The Nuremberg trials, against the Nazis who were doing all these experiments on the Jews, the Holocaust, and they did it in the name of the laws of their country. And the international courts in the Nuremberg trials, they ruled against those Nazis. The Nazis said, hey, it's not our fault. We were doing what the laws of our nation was telling us to do. Well, the international courts of the Nuremberg trials, they ruled that there are rights that exceed what a nation's laws are. And they're called human rights, that you cannot do that. You can't do those kind of things. Like slavery is a human right violation. All right. So it's really boiled down to, about what's right and what's wrong. Okay. You can't, it's your body, you own it. Okay. The government doesn't own you. Okay. So that's, again, you got to understand the whole spirit of the American Revolution, all of that, to really understand what's at stake. What's at stake is once you say, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, man. I've been taking vaccines since I was 3. I'm gonna just go ahead and take this. The problem is that once the tyrants start, they don't stop. That's just the beginning. Once you open up that avenue, that's the problem. You have to nip it in the bud. Once you let it go, it's going to continue and continue. The bully's not going to leave you alone. Okay. So again, they want people to show these passports to control, how you're able to move based off if you have the vax shot or not. Okay. And they claiming in the name of safety. Well, there are far worse diseases and things that cause harm to people, and it doesn't require some type of identification. Think about AIDS, for instance. People don't walk around with a passport to show that they don't have AIDS, and yet people spread the disease around, with dating, having unprotected sex with people. But wouldn't it be great for the public to know if they're going to have sex with somebody who can possibly have AIDS or not, or have gonorrhea or any other STD? Okay, so in that case, if you want a good health report, then everybody needs to show their entire health report card. Okay, a whole health passport. But they won't do that. These are HIPAA violations. Is your privacy. It's crazy to me that people even sharing the fact that they've been vaccinated with the world. It's nobody's business but yours. So anyway, this is just total chaos, and they're trying to create division between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. And furthermore, if you're vaccinated, there's nothing that an unvaccinated person should be able to do to you, because obviously you're protected. But Biden said that he must protect the vaccinated people against the unvaccinated. Again, division. So I don't think this is going to go well. And I think, and again, we're seeing a whole lot of, we got governors, senators, we have all kind of people that's suing Biden over this because it is unconstitutional. And whether you're pro-vax or not, it doesn't matter. It's really about freedom. It's about your freedom to choose. And again, I told you guys before, the difference between what's happening now with these vaccines versus the other ones. Again, I don't believe in compulsory vaccination, period. But it is a difference in conventional vaccines and what they're doing now with the gene therapies. It's a different process where it's altering your genetics. Okay. Some people have religious things against that, and you need to respect that. You feel me? You can't just force it on people because I'm afraid I'm gonna get sick. Well, that's what you got vaccinated for. So you shouldn't be afraid anymore. Right. So it's about using logic and reason. But this whole thing is going to boil down to, are people going to fight back, stand up, or are people going to lay down and allow the tyrants to just trample over your liberties? And when they start, they don't stop. That's the problem. None of this is new. Same stuff happened in Nazi Germany. Same things happen in every tyrannical government regime, period. All right. So you guys have to pay attention to that. And we have to talk about it because we're talking about human behavior. That's economics, human actions. And the government tries to steer people in certain places. All of this is distorting the entire economy. The reason why the stock market is where it is, the reason why everything is the way it is because of all of these different distortions that are happening because of the government. So that's why we want to talk about it. But other than that, that's my spill on it. You guys let me know how you feel about it. All right. There's no right or wrong answer. Just tell me how you feel about it. All right. So also, Bitcoin Day. So on Tuesday, El Salvador became the first country to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. A Brazilian Reddit Bitcoin subgroup celebrated Bitcoin Day to commemorate the adoption, but an app used in El Salvador to store the currency went temporarily offline, and prices fell by as much as 17%. El Salvador's president tweeted, "Buying the dip, 150 new coins added." So you got to love the spirit of the Bitcoiners, though, because no matter, how low this thing goes, man, they believe in it religiously. OK, and I think that's interesting, to allow, these controlled currencies to compete with non-controlled currencies. But for that reason is the reason why I believe that the governments will move in an effort to destroy Bitcoin, whatever it has going. They will not compete against it because they probably will lose. Therefore, they will suppress this whole, rally. And again, it's El Salvador, such a small, country. It's really a non-factor. But I see a lot of stories that's out there. They're talking about, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was right about Bitcoin, and you should do this, that, and the third. Again, like I told you guys, my positioning on this whole situation. It's not that I don't like Bitcoin. It's just that I feel like, I know from history, and we know that governments from history, a historical fact, they always control their money supply. They always control their money. And it's always a need to control it. But if they can't control Bitcoin, then that's the reason why, I don't think that is going to work, saying as far as being a reserve currency of the world or anything like that. What's more likely to happen is that people start to adopt this whole idea of digital money, and the government will run that entire industry. And they're already working on it now with central bank digital currency, CBDCs, where the government will be able to see all the data that's happening with your money transactions, and then they can try to control economies. We talked about this, quite some time, but China's already doing it. And again, the China controlled state is weird. You got to understand there's a clear difference between China and Americans. Okay, so the Chinese people versus Americans, their whole culture is different. They're okay with a parental type of, relationship with the government. They don't have certain rights like we have, where, America is based off of we're a revolutionary country based off of liberties and freedoms. OK, we got the right to bear arms. OK, we have guns over here to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, whereas they don't. All right. China just go and kill all them people, and nobody will say nothing. But not in America. It won't go down that way. So it's important that we, continue to fight against the tyrannical machine, because they're moving in all kind of efforts to control economies, of scale, everything. But in the digital world is where they do it at. OK, they can't do it in the natural world. They can't track what's real. But if it's in the digital world, artificial, they can track it and they can control it. And that is my problem that I have with this whole digital currency situation. In fact, speaking of digital currency situation, I had a situation this past week when I went to Wendy's, which again is a $6 billion company. I went to Wendy's, and I normally, I don't, carry cash, but my mother, she gave me some cash, I think a year ago, last Christmas. And I keep a little cash, but I decided to spend some of the cash and grab me a little spicy chicken sandwich from over at Wendy's. And as when I go get my food, I go to pay with cash. And the chick at the window, she took the money and everything. And then she turned around, she looked at me, she was like, "Oh yeah, I don't have no change. So, there you go." And I was like, I know it's not much change, but it's my change and I want my change. And she was like, "Well, we don't have no change." And I was like, "Well, why you didn't tell me that at first?" It's like if you put it on a sign that's on the drive-through menu, I can clearly see that. There's no signs. When I get to the window, there should be a sign. And we know it's been a change shortage, for over a year now. Most restaurants have the sign on the windows, but this one didn't. And she thought she was just going to take my money. And an old dude told me this years ago, before my training in economics. He said, "Nah, young man, don't tell me to keep the change. I work for $1 billion corporation. These companies make so much money. That's your money. Keep your money. Okay, it is yours. I don't care if it's 5 cents." So it's all about principle. It's not about the money. It's about the principle. But it could have easily been avoided. You know what I'm saying? Because I would have paid with a card so you can get the exact money. but you're going to take my cash and then hold on to it. You don't have change. And so she's like, well, I'll go to the car and go get the change for you or whatever. I don't care how you get the change. I just want my money because it's mine. It's just off the principle, right? And if you were honest up front, it wouldn't have been a problem. But that was deceptive that you're just going to take my money. Because I was like, well, let me just pay with the card. Oh, I can't do that now because I already put the money in the register, so I can't take your card. I'm like, all right, so that's very deceptive. But again, that's talking about the change shortage, Again, all of this is, at the hands of government's intervention in society, creating all of this distortion. And these companies are really, really messing up right now. They're really messing up because what they don't anticipate is that people are going to stand up and fight against this. Okay. They think that, and I just saw, there's a couple of hospitals that they had to kind of shut down operations because you have doctors and nurses that are quitting because they refuse to get the vaccine. Now, anytime you got doctors and nurses that are quitting over the vaccine, you should definitely pay attention to that. All right. But besides the fact is that these companies, they're anticipating that they're going to get new vaccinated workers to take their place. And I think that's where they're wrong at. And it's going to be a miscalculation. But in the end, they're going to be forced to capitulate these policies because they're going to have to go out of business. At the end of the day, you guys are going to see the power of the people right now. The people have the power. Understand, corporations, they answer the government, but the corporations actually answer to the people's demands, what people are demanding. If people are not spending, you go out of business. So you're actually at the mercy of the people. And so they're playing, they're trying to serve two masters here, the government and the people. One is going to have to fall. Either the people are going to fall or the government's going to fall. We're going to see this in real time. But what's interesting is that if people fight back, like how we're seeing doctors and all of them quitting, we already have supply chain shortages out the ass. We've been covering this entire year. There's no need for me to even cover the economic data on it because it's the same story every week over week. The supply chain shortages, their labor shortages, everything shortage. Prices are going through the roof. Inflation this, inflation that, yet the Fed's saying everything is transitory. Demand is out of this world, but it's not enough supply. You need people working. And so if you set some type of regulation, doesn't matter what it is, but in this case, it's the vaccine mandate or requirement, as Biden tried to, word psychology it. Whatever that regulation is going to prevent people from working. So it's going to negatively impact already slowing down economy. Like this is going to be, it's going to be drastic. Okay. And so I had this epiphany. Right? Because I used to play this video game with my daughter named The Sims. I don't know if you guys anybody ever played The Sims? Anyway, The Sims, I used to love playing this game. I always buy it because my daughter, she loved playing it. But if you ever play The Sims, it's a game that will stress you the hell out, okay? Because it's already hard to manage your real life in real life. But in this video game world called The Sims, you're actually tasked with managing computer characters. And you're kind of like God, and you're managing their life, and you're hoping to take them to be successful, these characters in the game. You have to make sure they're eating. You have to make sure they have a social life and make sure their hygiene's clean. Make sure they go to work on time. If not, they get fired. And, make sure they're exercising, all these different things that you set the characters to do in the game. But one of the things funny is like in the game, I remember setting my character to do some tasks, and I was trying to get him to work out because I'm trying to get him to get a better job and stuff like that. He needed to be physically fit, and he needed to speak better, so he needed to learn, and he needed to exercise and all that other stuff. And then I set him up to a command, and so the character in the game turns around, looks up at the screen at me, and he starts arguing with me. Okay, this is in a video game. He says, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to work out. No, I'm not going to do this. And you have to figure out why is he not going to do this? And so in my character's case, his social aspect of his life, he was deficient there. I needed to make sure he was socialized. He had friends and stuff. And so he's at the point of no return when he's fighting back and like, he's looking at the screen, like literally looking at me. And he's like, nah, they don't speak English. He's saying something, but whatever he's doing, he's telling me, no, he's not going to work out. He's not going to do this. And you can't do nothing in the game. So me being the God of this whole world, I had to capitulate my stance and give him what he wants, and try to get some people to, go and have a party and speak with him. And then once he's happy again, then he'll go and be productive and work and stuff like that. These are economic lessons that I learned from a video game. All right. And you guys see it in real life. If the people revolt and do like how that game says, it says, no, we're not doing this, the government's going to be forced to capitulate. That's just the way it's going to have to be. So that's what I'm saying. That's the power of the people that people need to understand. And that's a great lesson that you guys will learn from a video game. Anyway, so Topaz, he has sent this nice little article here about Yellen urges Congress to raise the debt limit. She warns Pelosi about extraordinary measures running out soon. So the government is bankrupt. All right. You guys got to understand they're bankrupt. And this is, a pretty bad situation. But check out the article itself. It's right here on the website. Check it out. Get some insight on that, with them trying to raise the debt limits, or they're going to suspend the debt limits, whatever they're going to do about it. They're going to have to make some kind of decision, or, it's going to be, chaos, more chaos, I should say. So that was interesting. Big data that we had that came out this week was the the Federal Reserve Beige book. Okay. And so we get a lot of great, information here from the Fed presidents where they speak on it. So I'm not going to cover what the Fed presidents are speaking on, just the overall theme of this, which is the economic activity, employment, wages, and prices. So this is the findings there. It says economic growth downshifted slightly to a moderate pace in early July through August. So they're saying that, things are slowing down. The stronger sectors of the economy of late included manufacturing, transportation, non-financial services, and residential real estate. Lo and behold, real estate. Okay. The declaration in economic activity was largely attributable to a pullback in dining out, travel, and tourism in most districts, reflecting safety concerns due to the rise of the Delta variant and, in a few cases, international travel restrictions. So he said because, the Delta's popping up, things are starting to slow down economically. All right. Fair. The other sectors of the economy where growth slowed or activity decline were those constrained by supply disruptions and labor shortages, as opposed to softening demand. So obviously demand is not slowing down, but there are supply disruptions and labor shortages, which we've been covering so many weeks and months. So, and it's still going. In particular, weakness in auto sales was widely ascribed to low inventories amidst the ongoing microchip shortage, and restrained home sales activity was attributed to low supply. So we've been seeing that again, month over month, about these microchip shortages. And again, they continue. And you need microchips for all these things that's in this computer world. Okay, be aware of this artificial computer world. But anyway, there's shortages there, so you're having issues. Growth in non-auto retail sales slowed a bit in some districts, rising at a modest pace. On balance across the nation, residential construction was up slightly on balance, and non-residential construction picked up modestly. So some houses are being built. Okay, but who's buying the homes? We've been talking about that. These companies have been buying the homes. People have been getting priced out of the market. Okay, Zillow been buying up everything. And I told you guys before about this whole, World Economic Forum whole situation that you will own nothing and be happy. This is the socialist pie in the sky dream that they want you to subscribe to. And when you learn the economics of liberty, you understand the importance of private property. Okay, got to have private property. You have to have economic freedom, and you just got to have all kind of freedom, basically. So anyhow, reports on the agriculture and energy sectors were mixed across districts, but on balance, positive. Looking ahead, business in most districts remain optimistic about near-term prospects, though there continued to be widespread concern about ongoing supply disruptions and resource shortages. So they're expecting more supply disruptions and resource shortages. And when they say resource shortages, you might as well talk about labor shortages, because they don't have enough people. And then the people they have, you have a mismatch with, people that don't have the skills that the employers are looking for, or the employers are not paying enough money to even attract those people who have the skills. So it is just chaos. All right, so the employment and wages sector, section of this Beige book, it says that all districts continue to report rising employment overall. So they said, okay, more jobs are being created, though the characterization of the pace of job creation ranged from slight to strong. Demand for workers continued to strengthen, but all districts noted extensive labor shortages that were constraining employment and, in many cases, impeding business activity. Again, labor shortages, big boy issues here. Contributing to the shortages were increased turnover. They're not even holding people. Turnover increasing. Early retirements, especially in healthcare. Pay attention to what they just said. Early retirements, especially in healthcare. This is important for when you're digesting news that comes across your screen that's telling you this, that, and the third. They're telling you that the hospital systems are overwhelmed because of unvaccinated people. All right, that's the story. But on the economic side, you got to remember, they've been laying these people off for economic reasons. Businesses, again, these companies, they start up, they have all the kind of debts and stuff like that. They can't cover it. They start to shut down, start to lay off. So then you have layoffs. You have people unnecessarily going to the hospital anyway, just because they get a cough or a sneeze. They're just rushing because they're scared. So out of fear, you have people that's going there. Otherwise, if it was like the cold, without this whole pandemic situation, they would stay at home and hit the medicine cabinet, right? But they don't do that. It's going straight there because they're afraid, which anybody can understand that. But you have a shortage of workers, okay? You have people that have taken early retirement. They say, you know what? F this, I'm out of here. This is chaos. This is crazy. Look at this. So when you have a demand that's high, but you have a shortage of, people that can actually service the people, I mean, yeah, you're going to have overwhelming hospital systems, okay? You don't have enough people to actually care for the people in the first place, all right? So then why would you try to pass these mandates? You already have a strained system, a healthcare system. This is going to be a nightmare if you force people to quit, because people are really going to be dying. All right, this is a disaster. You guys got to see this. Well, pay attention. They said that early retirements, especially in healthcare, people go, deuces, bro. Like if I was at that age or in that level, I would retire as well. That'd be crazy. Think I'm gonna be out here doing that. Childcare needs. Okay, we talk about the women who's childbearing. And again, I told you these people. A lot of these people are not going to come back, and that is the era of these economists. They think that we're going to recover everything that was lost, but we're not. Okay, because again, like we just said, a lot of these people are retiring, or they have childbearing. They got to raise the kids. They're not coming back. Challenges in negotiating job offers and enhanced unemployment benefits. So these are all the causes they're saying that's causing the shortages, right? So they got rid of the enhanced unemployment benefits, which they think that's going to force people to come back, and it probably actually bring some people back, right? But you still have all those other causes that are just problematic that they can't compensate for, right? So again, they're way over their head on this. Some districts noted that return to work schedules were pushed back due to the increase in the Delta variant. With persistent and extensive labor shortages, a number of districts reported an acceleration in wages, and most characterized wage growth as strong. Including all of the Midwestern and Western regions, several districts noted particular brisk wage gains among lower wage workers. Employers were reported to be using more frequent raises, bonuses, training, and flexible work arrangements to attract and retain workers. I just saw Amazon is supposed to be bribing people with paying their tuition. So that should, incentivize people to go work for Amazon. Although Amazon will work you like a dog and a slave. So do you want to be a slave so that you can go to college? I mean, it's really going to boil down to that, right? So, but as you can see, wage inflation is a big issue. We've been talking about wage inflation for a long time. And the problem is with wage inflation is that once these companies pay these higher wages, they can't take them back. They don't take them back. So that's why we said that this can't be transitory. This is permanent, okay? But at the same time, companies are going to have to pass these costs on to consumers, and all your workers are consumers as well, okay? So you paying them more money so they can spend more money on products that you're going to charge higher prices for. This is a really problematic situation, okay? Because these companies are going to have to pass these prices on. In fact, let's go over the next section. They talk about prices. Inflation was reported to be steady at an elevated pace, as half of the districts characterized the pace of price increases as strong, while half described it as moderate. with pervasive resource shortages, input price pressures continue to be widespread. Most districts noted substantial escalation in the cost of metals and metal-based products, freight and transportation services, and construction materials, with the notable exception of lumber, whose cost has retreated from exceptionally high levels. Even at greatly increased prices, many businesses reported having trouble sourcing key inputs. Some districts reported that businesses are finding it easier to pass along more cost increases through higher prices. Several districts indicated that businesses anticipate significant hikes in their selling prices in the months ahead. This is why we cover this economic data, right? Because this is telling us what's coming ahead so you can prepare for it. They just told you, okay? Look at that. Several districts indicated that businesses anticipate significant hikes in their selling prices in the months ahead. Listen, prices are going to continue to go up. How can this be transitory? They've been saying it's going to be transitory. First, it was no inflation. Then it's been transitory since March, okay? Look at it now. It's still going up. This is chaos. That's the only way to describe what's happening right now. But you guys can read, the rest of this. This is all the districts here, the Fed presidents of these districts. Again, this is on the website, so you guys can check that out. We had the JOLTS job openings and labor turnover release here, and took a couple of screenshots. Of the charts here where you can see, the amount of unemployment and stuff like that. So you guys can check that out. Let's just move forward here. I know we're close to the end. As ECB tapers, the European Central Bank start to taper, Fed Bostic gets cold feet amid Delta doubts. All right, so again, I think Bostic is the one who wanted to start tapering, but because of Delta, he's having cold feet about, maybe we shouldn't because Delta is going to start shutting things down. Then we need to stay in the game. All right, so that's what they're going to be doing. Anyway, earlier we talked about this. Remember, we got the movies, films, and documentaries group right here on the website in our groups. So if you know the groups that you can check everything out. Movies, films, and documentaries. Listen, this is something that's fun. It's not so cerebral. Definitely participate in it. Any great movies that's, stock market related, economic related, films, documentaries, and drop them in the group. You feel me? Mark and Topaz and Ron and everybody else has been trying to put me on this show called Billions for a long time, for some years, I guess. And I just finally jumped on it this year. So anyway, I just posted on it because they just came back last Sunday. And I guess they'll have a new episode tonight, which hopefully I'll watch that tonight. So anyway, shout out to y'all for putting me on that. It's a really good show for you guys that want to know how it goes down in high finance. And remember, they don't make this stuff up from scratch, man. I'm telling you, man, they got, inside tips on how it go down. So it's good to get that insight, especially trying to be a trader, investor. You want to know what's going on, on the big boy side of the market makers and the hedge funds, that kind of give you a little insight. I mean, it is, a TV show. So there's going to be some fiction in there, but just know that that's how things go down. Everybody's trying to get some inside information or create information. And that's another thing about data that y'all don't understand. That's what I be saying, man. We put too much emphasis on numbers. Numbers don't make nothing real. They can make the numbers whatever they want to make it. They can create unnatural situations. They can knock businesses out, all kind of stuff, right? So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Speaking of that, I know that we had a situation with Apple and the video game maker Epic. It looks like, a federal judge ordered Apple to allow developers to steer customers to alternative payment systems outside its app store in a landmark antitrust case brought by Fortnite maker Epic Games. So it looks like I think they're trying to basically say that Apple has this monopoly. And it's a big story about, Apple controlling, I guess the payment, and they have issues with that. But Apple coming up this week, I believe Apple is having a day this week. Maybe it's Tuesday. There you go. Tuesday, they host a product launch event via a live stream on its website. It is expected to introduce the iPhone 13, the latest iteration of its flagship product, and possibly new Apple Watch and updates on their AirPod models. So interesting. We saw Apple get smacked up this week as well. But, you'll see situations that may occur where, companies sabotage each other, okay, and to produce some kind of crazy data. So when you take a look at Samsung, which competes with Apple, the Samsung phones start to blow up, to start looking at Apple stocks to buy because they're going to benefit from that. You know what I'm saying? And the vice versa. If the Apple starts to blow up, then you look for stuff like Samsung, right? So you know to look at that type of stuff. Let's see what you got here. August wholesale price rise 8.3% on an annual basis, biggest advance on record. Again, this is inflationary. Thanks again for that feed right there, Terry. Apple can no longer force developers to use in-app purchases. Judge rules in Epic Game case. Yep, see, Terry posted that right there. Let me hit that like button the same way you like on Facebook. You do it on our website. All right. And let's take a look at these earnings here because it's really light. Thanks, Topaz, coming through with that. Monday is going to be light ahead of the bell. After the bell, you have Oracle, you have Volt. The rest of these are non-factors. And then Tuesday, we see you got Aspen, Skillsoft. These are going to be light as well. And then Wednesday, Weber. I don't know if you guys have been cooking out, but Weber got them grills. But it's going to be pretty light on earnings. Thursday is nothing, and then Friday, I don't even know what that is or who that is, but earnings is not going to be a factor that's going to be driving the markets. This is what you need to know. So this week is going to be really light on earnings. So thanks for that. Let's take a look here at some of these charts and go over some plays from the crew. All right, so we talked about the indexes and the shape that they're in here. Let's go over that. All right, so we take a look at the S&P 500. One thing that's clear on this chart is that 50-day moving average is the truth, okay? Always trust this 50 moving average on here because you can see it holds every time, all right? Boom, that's the dip. When they talking about buying a dip, they buy the dip once it hit that, okay? So you'll see sell off, hit through the 50. They go through the 20 and they go straight to the 50. Boom, straight to the 50. So what I'm anticipating and seeing is that this goes to the 50 and the 50 would be the floor, which would be right here. All right, so let me just spread it out a little more so you guys can see that. All right. And again, I got my target there from JP Morgan's Outlook, which they've already blown through that target. So they've already taken their profits off of that. So they probably got some new targets on here, but you guys can clearly see how the 50 moving average holds. It's true. Okay. So we're going to sell off, and I think we'll come down to that 50 before. I think that 50 is going to be a key level of support. Okay. We can see things are starting to go down. So starting to get a nice little pullback, okay? It's still choppy as hell, but I'm expecting more pullback action. That's what I'm expecting. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. All right. So the NASDAQ is in better shape than the rest, but still see that it's the price is trading under the moving average, okay? You can see the moving average right there. Price is still trading under it. It's not going as down as the others, but I think that it's going to actually come down. It may be a more slower turnover rate, but you can see here that it's been overbought and it's starting to turn over. Stochastics is going down. Momentum is dying off. The trend is going down. So to me, it's only right that it comes down. The question is, will it come down to the 50? Okay. Definitely going to come down to the 20, but will it come down to the 50? I'm not too sure because it's been the only thing that's been really pushing the markets further is tech. Everybody's just piling up in tech. Tech is going to change the world. Tech is this, that, and the third. Everybody's so crazy about tech, but we had a dot-com bubble in 2001, remember? Okay? Don't put too much faith in this technology stuff, I'm telling you. But this is where people are piling up in because people believe that technology is going to change the world. And technology will change the world. I just don't think it's going to change it in the way that people think. So anyway, you get a lot of malinvestment in here, and this thing blow up is going to be really bad. But anyway, so for that matter, day trading a lot of tech stocks, basically. And take a look at the Russell, the RUT. And the RUT has been chopping sideways again this whole time. This thing was super choppy. You could have put on so many iron condors on this mark. Look at that. Look at it, choppy sideways for months. Iron condor after iron condor. All right, so it's continuing to go and chop sideways. But what's interesting is the 200 moving average is starting to catch up. And so what'll be interesting, if this thing falls underneath, then you're going to be in trouble. And normally the rut leads the rest of the indices. So if this goes down, I would anticipate the rest of them to go down as well. But right now it's going sideways. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick. All right. So we all heard about the news on Bitcoin, and we can see how the chart jumped all the way up, hit this 618, boom, starts to sell off. Then we get a sell trigger in here. The floor is right here. We can see right here, right above the 4,000, level on this. The question is the floor going to be able to hold from the sell off, or will we breach through that floor? It's going to be kind of tricky because we could see, clearly it was overbought and now it's starting to sell off. Stochastics is all trending down. Well, what makes it dangerous is that it has this squeeze on it. And so it's going to be interesting to see if this squeeze is going to fire long or fire short. We don't know the direction. We just know the squeeze is going to fire. Okay. It's going to fire in any direction. Just don't know which direction. But right now, everything is pointing south. If that squeeze fire short, then Bitcoin is going to come down even further, probably to around 35,000 level. However, that could be a tricky situation because it can also turn around, sell off shortly, and then pop up, right around the 55,000 level. Okay. Once they, shake off the hand. So it's a tricky situation, very speculative here. But that's just how I am looking at Bitcoin right now. All right. And so we took a look at those indices. We saw a lot of them was selling off this past week. I expect us to get some more sell-offs, but gold also is looking like it's in a bad situation as well. Okay, we can see we got some sell triggers here, and these sell triggers have held true when it comes to gold. We can see every time in the past I got that sell trigger, boom, sold off, boom, sold off, sell trigger, boom, sold off, sell trigger, boom, sold off, sell trigger here, boom, sold off. Look what we have here. We have a sell trigger. So again, we're going to follow the trend, listen to the indicators until they are proven wrong. So I'm anticipating for it to sell off. We had a nice little rally up in here, got into this little cluster right up in here at that zone, start chopping around, never clear. Now we see sell-off triggers in here. So I'm expecting that to go down, although gold should be going through the roof right now. But again, market participants are still believing the Fed's transitory story. Last week we talked about stagflation, being a thing here. So, but again, at the end, I think gold is going to be vindicated in the end, but we'll see. But right now, looking short. All right. So the same thing goes for silver as well, with the metals. All right. And let's take a look at a couple of stocks here. You guys can drop in any stocks you want to take a look at for plays coming into this week. And then we'll get to it. Just show you guys while you typing in those tickers. Let's take a look at Apple real quick. Because we just talked about Apple has a day coming up on Tuesday where they're going to be, I guess, introducing the new iPhone and everything, which is interesting because we started melting upwards in Apple. But I guess on news of this, release of the new iPhone, we're seeing the sell off, and we had a big drop down candle here, which is not looking good. Okay. Apple was in an overbought territory, and we could see, momentum is shifting. Everything's starting to turn downward for this one here. So it looks like, investors are selling into this event. And so again, I expect for that to continue. I don't know what Apple is going to bring. They normally bring great technology. So I don't, quite understand the pessimism. I guess it's probably around the court case with Epic, but I mean, geez, they stay in court cases. Ain't nothing new. So I just think that's interesting. We take a look at that. Let's take a look at Amazon as well. And the reason why I want to take a look at these stocks, because these are normally the ones that's driving the markets, right? And so a lot of weight on these again, tech stocks. But we take a look at Amazon as well. They had a nice little rally up right into the 618. And we see that it's starting to get rejected here. Okay. We can see it was overbought. We can see it was overbought. Stochastics is turning around here. I don't see the momentum dying off just yet, but I expect for it to start dying off here. I expect this rejection to come through. And again, when all these tech stocks start to turn over, the markets turn over with them. So one of the let's take a look at Google. So just take a look at the FANG stocks, basically, because they're the ones who drive the markets. And you can see the sell-off right here in Google as well. Google's been a very strong performer. Got that long candlestick drop down. It's right here holding up at 20. It holds up at 20 pretty true. Every time in the past, it always held up at 20 itself. We're back here on the 50. So we can see the 50s where it held up at the 50 moving line, moving average. And then from here, it started holding up against the 20 from up here. But it looks like it's starting to break right here. And if it breaks underneath that 50, under the 20, then I expect the 50 to hold the line of support here. But again, all of this is starting to look bearish. And so I have a more bearish, outlook on this situation here. All right. Another name here that was bullish on last week is Starbucks. Interesting to see how this plays out. I was expecting to get up here to this target right here, at least. So I'm still in here. So hopefully we'll tag that target so I can get out. Well, if it starts to reverse, then, I'll just get out and take what I have now. But I'm expecting for it to get up here in this zone right here, which is a hard resistance. So you guys can take a look at that as well. What else? Anything on your radar? You chilling? Yeah, and that's another thing. Is like when we have so much volatility in markets right now, it's chaos, man. You get chopped every which way right now. So it's really tough. So I totally understand, even for myself, trying to dial back on the amount of trades that I'm putting on right now, dial back the exposure, just because this, anything can go right now. Let me take a look at AMC real quick. So, and AMC, they had a bull flag on it as well. And we can see, again, like this zone right here is what I was looking at. And this is another, trade that was in the chat room here. We saw it go up from there, and it's up against a hard resistance zone here. So I would expect profit taking right here, but we'll see if it blows through because it could. But I would expect profit taking right here in this zone. All right, cool. Terry, you say you're focusing on the indices. Okay. Oh, Ron with Roblox. There we go. So I've been talking about video games all day. How are we gonna forget Roblox? Yeah, Roblox. They doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? Like my little 6-year-old, she's an avid Roblox player now, thanks to my teenagers. So you guys got kids or grandkids, I'm pretty sure they're playing this game, which is just weird to me, but they like it. And they're still playing it. And I imagine that Ron is bullish on here, and so am I, on Roblox. I believe that it's going to continue to go up. And we can see from this zone right here, the 618 right here, that we should be able to at least get up here off of some profit taking. It isn't a long squeeze. You just never know how long squeezes will play out. But the trend is starting to shift upwards. We can see everything is starting to shift upwards. Okay. I think that we can get up here to the zone here. So if you're already in there or you're looking to get in there, I would expect to take off right here. We hit this target. Okay. So this is pretty much what I'm looking at right now. I'm just actually getting it from the swimming pool with my baby here today, so I didn't have much time to prepare the way I wanted to. But this is what's happening right now in the markets this week. So again, we're going to hear more stories coming out about, this whole, mandate that they have going on right now. Already a lot of, companies, governors, people, they have lawsuits against Biden on this thing. So that's going to be all over the headlines. Or any other stories that they try to put out. In fact, did y'all see the story about Fed Kaplan and Rosengren? It was actually trading stocks. Did y'all see that? Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if y'all saw that, but the Fed presidents, these guys been trading stocks, and which is interesting because if you were inside trading, you would go straight to prison. But you guys can see right here, 2 Federal Reserve officials said on Thursday that they will sell their individual stock holdings by the end of the month to address the appearance of conflicts of interest. So they're really trying to downplay it. It's just like, oh, we don't want this to have an appearance of a conflict of interest. So they've been doing it, right? But just think about it, right? The market is moving based off of the Fed. The Fed is actually in the game, making money when they're the ones who's actually causing the movements in the market. Like, how fair is that? When they know, the judgment of, the outcome of their rulings and the impact that it's going to have on the market. And guess what they've been buying up? Real estate, they've been buying up all kind of stuff. And it's crazy. Let me see. They said, let's see. It said, okay, Wall Street Journal, Kaplan disclosed that he held a total of 27 investments in individual stocks, fund, or alternative assets that were valued at over $1 million a piece. Okay, that's each. He also made sales or purchases of at least $1 million in 22 individual company shares or investment funds, the report noted. The transaction included Apple, Amazon, and General Electric. He says, while my financial transactions conducted during my years as Dallas Fed president have complied with the Federal Reserve's ethics rules, he's trying to let you know that he was complying with the law. To avoid even the appearance of any conflict of interest, I have decided to change my personal investment practices. So now he's a saint. All right. A separate report by Bloomberg highlighted that Rosengren held stakes in 4 separate real estate investment trusts and that he made multiple purchases and sales in those investments and other holdings while also being a vocal critic of the risk in the U.S. real estate market. Again, so how he's being a critic of the risk in the U.S. real estate market when he's making all the money in the real estate market. This is what I'm talking about. This is crazy, y'all. Like, this is crazy. And then he said here, regrettably, the appearance of such permissible personal investment decisions has generated some questions. So I have made the decision to divest these assets to underscore my commitment to Fed ethics guidelines. Come on, man. Y'all know that ain't right. Y'all are moving the market and you're making yourself rich. You feel me? Like, this is really crazy, man. Like, and I showed you guys, we talked about the real estate. Take a look at the real estate sector here. It's a nice pump up that they had. And it was interesting because I just took this swing high to this low and then I put my extensions on. It's funny because I was like, man, is it going to pierce through this? And it did. And it went all the way up here, sold off. And it's amazing that, they made all this money up in here and then they sell off right before the news hit. That's why they say buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay. Somebody knows something. Do you believe that they just caught this dude off guard? Man, listen, he already knew he was caught. Okay. He already knew he was caught. And they knew too. You see what I'm saying? He already knew. They got to, let him be able to get himself together. Listen, you got to come out. You got to make a statement, just let them know you're going to, divest and do all this other stuff. I'm telling you, man, they don't make this stuff up in Hollywood, man. Y'all make sure y'all check out Billions tonight, man. It's going to be, pretty action packed. Again, I told you guys, movies, films, and documentaries on the website. Check the group out. It's free. All kind of movies, films, and documentaries. You want to learn more in the movie settings or film settings when you don't want to read a book, you just want to watch something good. Got the links and all of that in here. If you go to discussions, if you click on discussions, let me go switch to red so you can see it. But if you switch to, if you go to from the feed to discussions, you'll see a nice breakdown of, a bunch of movies and films that, I put in here, but you guys can actually, put in some yourself. Just go here and then just go to discussions and then select new discussions right here. And then you just create, the feed on that. So again, we got lots of different things to help educate you guys. You're looking for something to watch. You got Billions right here, Money for Nothing, The Deadly Isms, Part 2, Free to Choose. We got Walter Williams, Stuff for No Fools, Thomas Sowell, Inside Lehman Brothers, Cryptopia, if you're into the Bitcoin, Too Big to Fail, Boiler Room, Wallstreet. We got pages. Okay, we got pages of movies and films. So again, you don't have to be such a nerd like me. You can actually watch some stuff and get it in with the family and make sure everybody's learning. One last thing I'll show you guys here before we bring the session to a close is that if you want to help here at Wall Street Jackboyz, and you're watching the video, make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, because again, people get popping because of the algorithms, recognizing activity on the videos. There's a lot of time and resources to go into editing and stuff like that. So putting in a lot of work, making sure that we're up to par on this. So make sure you guys hit that like button and leave a comment, because that registers as activity. Don't even matter what it is. It's just activity for the algos. They're not smart. They just recognize activity. But the more activity on the post, the more it populates to other people who have otherwise not seen the video. So now they can see the video because the algorithms populated in their feed. And that can help us out. And also, you know somebody that will benefit from our services here at Wallstreet Jackboyz, right on your profile here, you see I'm decorated. I'm a decorated general. You got to get your badge game up, okay? But anyway, we have this place right here called email invites, okay? Email invites, all right? So all you have to do is just put in the recipient's name and their email address and click send the invite. They will get the invitation and they can choose to freely join, because we don't coerce people over here, not like Facebook, okay? But we just want them to be able to freely join, our network here, to join our social platform. Again, it's free, so they can just join right here with the invitation. If they want training, they can pay for that, but it's not a requirement. So anyway, this is on everybody's profile. All you got to do is just drop that in there, and anybody that you know, and send those invitations. And that's the way that you guys can help us out. So again, want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and we'll be back next week. You guys have a great night, and see you guys in the chat room tomorrow. Peace.